Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Today we shall finish this. It is, as far as I can see, the final part of episode 5. So, the big finale of game 1 of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I am curious where this is going, how this is going to lead into the second game, which I do not know. Never played, of course, since I never played the first one. Why should I play the second one first? Nobody knows. But yeah, I am curious, but so far I don't really feel the need to play the second game. I love the Ace Attorney franchise, but if I were to play it right now, I would probably play it for myself, because it is really hard to, well, read the entire time. And it's not very entertaining, I know. Well, you can pretty much open the stream as more of a audiobook, I guess, and listen to it, so it is fine. But yeah, especially with doing voices, that's killing me. So listening back to all my live streams is gonna be super weird, because I'm not able to, well, give people the same voices over and over again. So yeah, I'm really bad at this. I know that, and I keep forgetting what voices I gave them, or what dialects or accents or whatever. So yeah, let's not talk about that and hop right in. Sorry. The 17th of April, 12:41 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Gina, how are you holding up? I'm starting to feel quite warmly towards her frequent cold shoulders now. Ginny! Are you alright? Why aren't you saying anything? What's the point there? Why go to all this trouble and fight so hard for the likes of me? What? Well, you saw it. The picture? What picture? Ah, you mean this? The photograph taken by Hurley's red-handed recorder. Well, I didn't think it would have captured a scene like this, that's for sure. It's hopeless. Anyone who sees that's gonna think I did it, ain't they? Well, I won't pretend it wasn't a bit of a shock when the prosecution first presented it to the court. Surely you've got to have your doubts about me now. You can't still think I'm innocent. Of course I can. Huh. Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Oh, I just realized I'm using the... And I didn't change... And, wow, what am I doing? I am so sorry. I'm really badly prepared, if not at all. I'm using the wrong wireless connection, because for some reason I lost the connection to the other one, and it says the stream quality is still good, so it should be fine, hopefully. And it's not an action heavy game, so it should be fine, but still I am quite unsure about this, but we'll see. Ginny, why don't you talk to us? Tell us what really happened that night. Eh? Bruno's cleverly managed to piece together a lot of new information, but still, we'd really like to hear it from you. Oh. Alright then. It was after we'd had the dinner together at your place, right, Iris? Then we all had a chat up in your office, didn't we? Yes, I remember. After that, I just couldn't get to sleep. So I slipped out and went down the street to the 221. To Windy Banks' place. I had to know if Iris' story was there or not. The Hound of the Baskervilles. I don't know what it's about or nothing. But if you ask me, there's something in it that Sholmes don't like. Something what he don't want people reading. So that's why he lied to Iris about sticking it to in luck with Windy Bank for safekeeping. Why? At least that's what I thought at the time. So you broke into Windy Banks. I just had to know if it was there or not. I mean, I had no idea what that was gonna kick off, did I? I struck the lock and snuck inside. It was dark as you like in there. So I gave the oil lamp on the counter a bit of wick, and that's when... What do you think you're doing? Ah! I nearly died. I did, and next thing I knew... I grabbed the gun off the counter and was waving it in the air like... I don't know what. Ah, you're the girl who was in there this afternoon. I didn't think pickpockets went in for armed robbery. The mental script, have you got it here? Did Sholmes leave a load of paper with you? The story? I beg your pardon? The Hound of the something or other? If it's here, I want to see it. I'm sorry, young lady. But I'd sooner die than relinquish an article belonging to one of my customers. I don't want it. What would I do with it anyway? I just want to see it here, that's all. Oh, you want to see it, do you? I want to know if Sholmes really pawned it here or not. Please, just let me see it and I'll go. Oh, very well then. But for pity's sake, stop waving my gun around, would you? So then the old cove unlocked the storeroom door and we both went inside. And it was there, right? The mantle script. Sholmes weren't lying about, after all. But you did all that just to check for me, Ginny? Anyway, then there was a bit of a kick-up out in the main bit of the shop. The Skarkin brothers arriving on the scene, yes. What was that noise? Someone's breaking in. Dear me, is there some burglars convention here tonight that I don't know about? I think I forgot to shut the door behind me, sorry. I'd better go and take care of it. Could I possibly have my gun back? Oh, well, I'll come with you and... Now, don't be foolish, young girl. You must stay right here. Don't leave this room under any circumstances. And with that, he took the gun out of my hands and walked back out into the shop. I hung back in the storeroom like he said, straining my ears in the dark to hear what was going on. It sounded like they got into a bit of a scrap. I started to think I should help, see? So I was just about to go out the storeroom myself when... Bang, bang. 2 bangs. I heard a couple of shots go off. 2, I think. Almost at the same time. And then there he was, right at me feet, lying face down on the floor. I was right next to the storeroom door, so I slammed it shut and locked it quiet as air. Like. Because you thought whoever had shot Mr. Windybank might come for you? Yeah, so I went to grab the old cov's gun. Figured I'd put up a fight at least. But when I got a better look at him, I knew. Windybank was a goner. I felt funny in my head all of a sudden, kind of dizzy. And after that, I don't remember nothing. That must be when you passed out, Gina. If I hadn't done what I'd done, the old cove might still be alive. Did you tell the police everything you told us? Of course I did, but they didn't believe a word of it, did they? All they said was if I kept telling lies, I'd make things even worse for me. It'll be alright, Ginny. Don't worry. Just stay strong a little longer. Bruno's about to put the real culprit through the mill. The cove what was there in the afternoon? That agate Benedict? I still remember how he looked at me, like I was nothing. He was there that night. We don't know his real name yet, but I'm convinced that he's involved somehow. Anyway, thank you for telling us what happened, Gina. I appreciate your honesty. You what? You can leave it all in Bruno's capable hands now, Ginny. Mr. Nara Odo. Yes? How come you trust me? I don't get it. I mean, have you forgotten what happened here before? Come on, it was only 2 months ago. We're getting old. Me and McGilded, we told you a whole pack of lies. And you got the bog trotter with him. What? Bog trotter off with him? Okay. Even though he was a killer. No. I could never forget that. Oh. I did what I thought was best at the time, but the pain of that era of judgment doesn't get any easier to bear. Still, don't forget that I also made you a promise. I told you that I'd be on your side to the bitter end, no matter what. But what if I'm lying? You could be working to get another kilo of the Ooook for all you know. I was once in your position, Gina. I was the accused in a trial. Twice. You were? Before I left Japan, I was accused of murder. And strange as it might sound, the circumstances of the crime were pretty damning. I was sure that no one would believe it wasn't me who'd done it. Oh, Bruno. But there was one person who stood up for me, who believed in me and was prepared to defend me. My best friend. Ryonosuke, no one believes in you more than I do. Leave this to me. All you need to do is put your faith in me and I'll do my best. I was so happy. I cried, but even then, somewhere inside me, I couldn't help thinking, surely he doesn't really believe in me. Not completely. But I was wrong. As soon as my trial began, it was obvious. that he had an absolute unwavering belief in me. And in turn, I developed an absolute unwavering belief in him. Since then, I came to realize, if you want someone to believe in you, you have to believe in the other person first. What are you saying? I promise you, Gina, that no matter what happens, I'll keep believing in you. So you don't need to worry. I won't let you down. Even though I'm a diver and a no-good liar, you're not like Mr. McGilded. I know that. Eh? That's right, you're our friend, Ginny. Iris, we know you better than you think. And we've come to the conclusion that you're someone we can trust. Yes. That's really all we need to know. Exactly. Mr. Nada Odo, Defendant Jean Lestrade, her legal representative. Oh, let me get something for my neck. It's getting stiff. I really need like one of those chairs with a neck support. Oh, I'm getting old. My head is too heavy for this. Court proceedings are about to resume. Please head into the courtroom immediately. Yes, of course. Thank you. I'd been both a defendant and a defending lawyer in my time, so I knew only too well just how hard it was to put all your faith in another. And I also knew just how hard it was to bear the burden of another putting all their faith in you. This is it, as at last. The final chapter, the final battle. Wish me luck, Susato-san, and I hope you're watching over me too, partner. Courtroom, let's go. Oh, there's a definite divide between those three now. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Zieks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? I still don't know how to pronounce that word. I want to know. Oops, sorry. Google help. Subpoena.
Subpoena.
Subpoena, okay. Whatever you say, Google. Subpoena the witness. The subpoena was delivered to the communication station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. Okay, I see. Then let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's precise... presses? What? Why do you keep using words I don't know how to pronounce of the case heard by the court this morning? The glaring omission of the third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologize, my lord. And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. Huh. It's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake. My lord, the subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. Mr. Agate Benedict, I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. Thank you for complying with the court's subpoena at such short notice, sir. But of course, my lord, as an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige. Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record. Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. Mr. Graydon and I both work at London Central Communication Station. Now, perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about? You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume? Yes, I was. Something to do with the murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street? And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation indeed. This really is beyond a joke, you know. Very well, without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath. Sure. Gladly, my lord. Gladly. The accusation. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbrokering services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation, even if certain parties were present claim that my blood was found at the scene. The wall. Are we done? One? Okay, eat it and be happy. Some Scaramouche detectives' homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence. So, you deny the accusation completely, do you? I must say I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy. It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld. And then it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today. By jolly. How long am I expected to be detained here? If, following the defense's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately. Good. Then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation at least. Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination. So, we meet again, Mr. Agate Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? My apologies. You are... Ryunosuke Naruhodo. defense lawyer. We have met. If you say so. Ashley Craydon, enchanté. So... I trust we can conclude this quickly. But I'm not holding your fleshy head while we do. That's for sure. I agree. Okay. The accusation, thank you. Can we finally begin? Naturally, I have occasion to make one of... Ah, right. We heard that already. But are you seriously suggesting I could in 1 second? Let me press this. Yes, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question. Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time. It was Mr. Agate Benedict, I believe. Objection. Tell me, what... The witness is here to testify about events that took place that night. He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions. You can't be serious. Thank you, because I certainly do not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question. So he's going to be evasive, is he? In an effort to give anything away, not to give anything away, this could be tricky. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? Have you seen those two men before? This pair? No, I don't associate with criminals. Sat by a man who introduced himself as Agate Benedict. I'd like to know who I have to thank for this. Who made this outlandish accusation against me? The young lawyer there in the black. This is a farce. Whose idea was it to permit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Well, needless to say, I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation. Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir? That is past the hour at which I would normally retire, certainly. I was not in the company of these rapscallions. You are able to prove that?
Objection!
Listen carefully, my learned Nipponese friend, for you appear to be under a gross misapprehension on this point. What do you mean? The witness maintains he was not at the scene of the crime. He has no obligation to prove his absence. What? I guess? If your accusation is that the witness was present at the scene, the obligation lies with you to prove your assertion. You will fulfill the obligation before putting any more unreasonable questions to the witness. Could you stop dancing? A silent victory wiggle. Thanks. Even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. Blood was found at the scene of the crime, there's no question of that. Mr. Sholmes's chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. But I'm not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. Every individual's blood has a significantly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes's chemical is able to differentiate. Spare me the science lesson. Who is this Sholmes character anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a great, well, a renowned detective. So even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective? A great detective, you say? No, we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we?
Excuse me!
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin? Eh, what? Me? No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you. Right, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know, you're not big bruv sulky. Mr. Nash, Skulkin. Eh, go blimey, Governor. You what? Is it not the case that when Mr. Craydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? Eh, me thoughts? I don't have none of them. It must have been him. You what? Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Craydon just spoke? Nothing. Honest Gov, nothing. I was just thinking, if he waves his arm around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again, that's all. Thank you. What wound? Well, he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worrying for him and... Oh, well, spells. Mr. Craydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord? Yes, Mr. Craydon. I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. Certainly, I would be expected to answer anything, shouldn't be anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir? The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand as if in pain? No, I refuse. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offense at the insinuation that I was in any way involved. You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windybanks's pawnbrokery? My lord, the defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Craydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with this testimony, Mr. Graydon. The bottom line is I've never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed.
Hold it!
Never had anything to do with it? You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I'm not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study.
Objection.
No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Inspector? Eh? Come again, Sunshine? You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector, that afternoon? Well, yes, I do remember meeting yourself and the pawnbrokers that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall. And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article. Well now... I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly. What? But you must! I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something that I don't. What's going on here? Rexy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that Hurley installed in Windybanks's? Yes, of course. Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say. Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to pursue the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? It's all he's going to say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Bruno? I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. The complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from the witness's lips. All thanks to the Skarkin brothers. Yes, they were the key to it, after all. So he says he had nothing to do with Windybanks's. Well, we know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of the pawnbrokering service from time to time. Okay, let's go to the final statement. Present. He was hurt on that day, right? Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was, until the day of this murder, in pawn in Mr. Windybanks's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course, wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I've never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc. Ah, yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps. That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also, in the form of a scratch. Good gracious, indeed it must, Mr. Graydon. You refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch, consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well, well. It would seem I underestimated you. What is the meaning of this? So you admit it now. You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempt to take the disc from the defendant. Order. Well, Mr. Graydon? It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now. As you wish. Though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. The disc. There's a note on the disc saying, "For McGilded," but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say, the famous London philanthropist, who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder. Yes, my lord, the one and the same. Good lord, Mr. Graydon, are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted? Yes, that's correct. Order! Well... Hey Erika, how you doing? I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windybanks's. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's saying he's lying. So he appeared that afternoon at Windybanks in order to get his hand on Miss McGilded's disc for some reason. Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please. Loopy, oh no! You haven't been feeling well the last couple of days. Hope you're feeling better soon. Get some more sleep. I'm doing alright. I'm actually doing quite well. I haven't slept a lot, but my mood is great. That's what's count. What counts? Wow, I can't talk though. Forget talking. Okay, tell me more about that note. Would you care to explain how this belongs to you? As you will observe, a communications officer such as myself commands a fine salary. Oh no! Can't you get, well, weaker medicine then? Or take less? If it's not your right dosage, shouldn't you get it? Yeah. Fitted for your needs? No. Tethered to my body. That's not gonna happen. At 5 AM sharp, I am awake. No matter how late I went to bed, that's my time to wake up. And I'm like, alright, I hate it, thanks. As you will observe, a communications officer... okay. You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir. So, you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties having misplaced my purse whilst on an errand. You misplaced your purse but had a music disc with you? What? Which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question. Ah, right. I forgot. You claim that was your overcoat? Obviously. In my haste, I clean forgot that the music box disc was in its pocket. And yet, there is a note on it that reads, "For McGilded." I am a collector of rare and unusual music box music. I first met Mr. McGilded at a gentleman's club in the city and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area. So, the disc in question, it's a pre-produced sample. I promised to let Mr. McGilded hear it. But then you forgot that it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn. Yes, exactly. Gina didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she? No, because McGilded had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's going to expose Gina's perjury. Perjury. Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it? There must have been something that lessens the effect until now. Or I did something to make it stronger, but I wouldn't know. Did you maybe change your diet in some way? That can affect the effectiveness of drugs, well, medicine. Or if you lost weight, gained weight, that can cause an imbalance, or if it's a hormonal shift, maybe. There are many factors that play into the effectiveness of drugs. So yeah. But if it's too strong, maybe try going for less. Well, I don't know what you need it for, so I can't say, but if it's too strong, definitely maybe try, or, well, speak with your doctor first, get it cleared, and then try using less, if it's helping. Let's leave it alone for the time being. Yeah, sure. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutling on the day in question. Yeah, that's probably it then.
Hold it!
So, you're saying that Miss Lestrade lifted the ticket from your pocket or bag? That's right, despite being mindful of danger when walking in the insalubrious areas of her kind frequent. Miss Lestrade did no such thing. Well, of course you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender. You came to the pawnbrokery that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant. You were looking for her. That's what brought you to Windybanks's. To get your hands on Mr. McGilded's disc.
Objection!
My learned friend is a veritable font of nonsense. Nonsense? I concur with the prosecution. Counsel, you will refrain from the conjecture in this way. Is that clear? Yes, my lord. Then I will continue with the testimony for what possible use it can be. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. Had you ever been to Windybanks's before? Only once, for the purpose of pawning something, but like many, I enjoy browsing in such establishments. So when you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her, is that correct? Yes, that's right. I didn't notice at first, of course, such is the art of the pick-purse. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once in order to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place. But if you have no money problems and just pawned it because you misplaced your purse, shouldn't you have been able to get it back prior to 2 months after pawning it off? Yeah? Yeah. He can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to contradict him on this, yes. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police.
Hold it!
Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right, this was the very man. Apparently the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilded as evidence.
Excuse me!
Is something wrong, Inspector? Well, what do you mean? The last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way. Eh? No, it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone. Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilded's possessions? I can't tell you something like that, Sunshine. What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets? Yes, exactly. You should know all about that. Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after this trial 2 months ago, a man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life, yet he had a dark side too. Where are you going with this, Van Zix? I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they? That's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know. Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's paw print first. What's all this about? It's dick measuring. Who has the longer one? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zix here. I told you, dick measuring. Well, it would appear that the inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony. Gladly, my lord. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night. But perhaps you'd seen something of value among the forfeited items? No, not at all. Oh. A valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac. In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilded's disc. Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall that it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop that night than as I keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in. So, there was nothing of McGilded's left in the shop that night. Nothing this man might have been after. That is a lie. I wonder if that's really true. No. Bruno, if you have some evidence, then let him have it. I'm dying to see that irritatingly assured expression of his crumble. I just have to choose the right one. That will be the main problem. McGilded slipped the disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited at Windybanks's. Then, when he realized he was going to be arrested on suspicion of the omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. There's no doubt about it, that witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilded as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. Blah, blah. But Grexy being very strange about that. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony. There's a note on the disc saying, yeah, okay, let's go to the last one. Huh. Should I present that? Box, right?
Objection!
This disc was deposited at Windybanks's on Magnus McGilder's instruction. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Conjecture. Again, in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbrokery again that night.
Objection!
Sorry, my learned friend, but that's not true. What? Mr. McGilder had another article on porn at Windybanks's. As this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. There were 2 articles belonging to Mr. McGilder in Windybanks's pawnbrokery. And the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one. Together with your 2 accomplices, the Skulkin brothers. This is the second ticket, is it? What had the man deposited? The article description reads, 1 small box. A rather vague description, it seems to me. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbrokery with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would be absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point. Indeed, the witness makes a solid argument. So that means that for some reason, this Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
It's time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord. Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Zieks? I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Windybanks's pawnbrokery. And how would you know? And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it. You can? Good gracious! Inspector, show the photographic prints on the to the court, if you please. Yes, what prints? These prints were taken from one of the detectives' security cameras. Ah, Holy's red-handed recorders again. I love how they accept the cameras, but not the chemicals. But okay, as previously explained using this plan of the shop layout, the victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in 2 locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Windybank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which articles were placed for sale once forfeited. According to the information on this ticket, McGilder's small box had been forfeited already, 2 days before the incident, at 9 p.m. on 13th of April to be precise, which means it would have been on the shelves of forfeited items in the shop front. Now, what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's at 11 p.m. on 15th of April. The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear. And then, here we have another print. Something moved again. This one was taken about 2 hours after the incident. I see, so we have 2 pictures to compare. Yeah, the lower left area is slightly different, if I'm not mistaken. Though I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold. Right side. Lower right, not left, right. Dear me, that's starting to make my head ache. Obviously, at Scotland Yard we considered theft as one possible motive in this case. We explored the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So, your men have already compared these two prints thoroughly, Inspector? Yes, sir. We counted every single item in each of these two photographic prints. And the Yard's conclusion is that exactly the same number of are present in both. Huh. In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy. I don't believe it. If I could have just shown that he'd stolen McGilded's pawn box, I might have been able to break him down at last. You know what, Bruno? I've been thinking. I wonder if these two photographs really are exactly the same. What? So, counsel, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that in fact on the night in question nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Can I use... Where is it? There it is. Salmon. You have to pop your two prints in here to start with, you see? And then when you look through the eyepieces you can see the image. Yes, okay, can I do that now? Who came up with that? But... Nope, okay. I guess I have to ask the jury again. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion? No. I don't know. Could there be something hidden, some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Before I give my answer, my lord, I'd like to try something if I may. Try something? What do you mean, counsel? I'll need to use a certain piece of evidence from the court record to identify the discrepancy. I'm not entirely sure I follow. Which piece of evidence do you need to use to help you identify a discrepancy between the two prints?
Take that!
I'd like to use this device, my lord, to view the two prints stereoscopically. Oh! Yes, you've caught the bug at last. You can't resist it, can you? You've got the cross-side compulsion. Juror number 3. What a surprise. Come on, Runa. Let's put the picture in place and see what this wonderful contraption shows us. There we go. Now let's look through the eyepiece. Ha! I was right! I wasn't sure at first, but there's a clear discrepancy between these two prints. What? You must identify the location in question for the court, counsel. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy of which you speak. Present. Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there's one minor discrepancy between them. What? When you view... Oh, wow, that hurts my eyes. The two pictures stereoscopically. A single area stands out as being different. The location of this small box. Let me... wait. Unbelievable. By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary. What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGilded's small box was indeed not stolen from Windy Banks's on the night in question. However, there can be no doubts that somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves. Are you suggesting that the small box originally deposited by Mr. McGilded is in fact... Yes, the very same small box I just identified in those photographic prints.
Objection!
Mindless guesswork. What if it was? So a box was moved on the shelf. Nothing was stolen. A box can hold items? Hello? Can you use your brain, Van Zieks, please? Which means, quite simply, that nothing has changed. That may be true, but... Alright, McGilded's box wasn't stolen then, but doesn't the fact that it was moved like that change things? It changes everything! Well, not everything, but something. I believe this changes everything about the case. What can that possibly be? The crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves at Windy Banks's as we speak.
Objection!
That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial. The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Van Zieks. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination. That's why you prepare beforehand and not have a courtroom meeting the day after an incident. We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth. To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing. I beg your pardon, Lord Van Zieks. This is nothing but a smokescreen, a Nipponese specialty, it would seem. What are you trying to say? A learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning. That this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbrokery. Yet, common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly. It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGill perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of this trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established he was the upstanding member of society his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. The articles this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets and a small box. I thought it was your overcoat. I assure you, I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me. You wanted that coat just moments ago. Now you wouldn't even take it for money? It's not as if that was gold or jewels, is it? Though goodness knows. But you can't deposit cash at a pawnbrokery. Blah blah blah. Didn't read most of that. The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling. It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its arguments. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by this fine citizen could have. Well, counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc of the box are in any tangible way related to this case? Well, what's the matter, Runo? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence. Yes, of course, and you and I both know that. We know McGilt's true character, and we know the disc is significant even if we don't know why. But if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGilt's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. Are we still hung up on that? It's obviously been a mistake all this time. So what? That the defense's argument was flawed, based on false information. Yes, but it's not your fault that this false information... Oh. Okay, yeah. Oh no. And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. But Ginny... Sorry. This game is making me wanna rage quit, seriously. You could argue in Ginny's case that she was forced. I don't know what was used to force her to do it, but she was forced, and well, she was afraid of her life. She witnessed a murder, and the murderer forced her to, well, stand in the courtroom and lie for him. It's reasonable. It's what any normal person would do when fearing for their life. What? Could it be that Van Zieks knows? Yes, everybody does. Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything? But maybe this could be a great opportunity for us. Sorry, what do you mean, Iris? Well, what is it that you always say, Runa? Sooner or later the truth comes out, every time. Alright, the exact significance of the things that McGill deposited with Mr. Windybank is something that only Gina can explain to the courts. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here? Well, have Gina testify. My lord, the defense would like to make a proposal. Oh, what proposal, counsel? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? I guess. Oh. Door. Yours. To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited at Windybanks' by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question once and for all. Well, well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing? In particular, the impact it will have on the accused's standing, and indeed, your own. I have. Lord Van Zieks, would you care to explain that last remark? The prosecution accepts the defense's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. You witnesses currently in the stand may step down until further notice. Then I shall bid you good day. You will not leave this courtroom. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. As you wish. All right then, Gina, it's time. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here. Good luck, Runa. The articles that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Windybanks' pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial of which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago. Yes, and I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony happened to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded. The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we all are again, the same players in that trial, facing each other once more. A twist of fate, perhaps, my Nipponese friend? Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect of the murder, but as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged, that the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under the seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of the unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilder died in this very courtroom in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months ago. 2 months on. As indeed does the omnibus murder itself. Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor the small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings. Miss Lestrade, would you tell the court now, please, what really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago, I mean? I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know. And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade, this is extremely important. But remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. Thanks for your help, Van Zieks. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Thanks for your help, Van Zieks. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose. Can you leave the courtroom now, please? Thank you. You're not helping. Ginny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Bruno now. Iris, we're on your side. Alright then, I'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it. Sorry. I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. Seriously? Were you part of the... Okay, you have probably other trials to sit in on, so you are forgiven, but still. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilder's pawned articles and that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbor secrets of which we have been hitherto unaware. So, Miss Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth of commodities sorely lacking in your original statements. This is it then. Everything's going to come out. Like Van Zieks said. This could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears, but as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. The real truth of the omnibus case. The truth is that brickmaker Cov was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden I heard a scream from over me head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGilder slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Good grief, this is outrageous. What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago. Did you listen to what she said? As you say, my lord. then there's every chance I may have adjudicated an error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. In an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes, or should I say, no shit, Sherlock? Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in the trial of this witness and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable. I don't believe it. The whole trial was a farce. It was all lies. That McGilded fellow was rotten to the core. Don't forget that lawyer from the east. You're wrong, the lot of ya. Mr. Nara Odo, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it. Humbug. Is that really an English word? I thought that was German. Humbug? Well, okay, I don't mind. I don't think so. Are we really expected to believe that? He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the man off scot-free. Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop. Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. We didn't, though. We opposed the judgment. We wanted a guilty verdict. Are you guys even paying attention to the trials? You were partially part of the jury back then. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of the McGilded pawned articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depth of calamity you have just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord. Blimey. Mr. Naruhodo. Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Whee! Alright. And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? What? Why aren't I? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats? Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain that you claimed Mr. McGilded was the sole passenger, did you not? False testimony, my lord. That's what he told me I had to say. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I don't know, but I did hear him talk a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well, but if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying. Perhaps business dealings of some sort? Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. It started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared by then. I hardly dared to breathe, and then all of a sudden, I heard a noise like someone keeling over on the floor. It was blooming loud and all. Why did nobody hear that on the roof though? And I believe you let out an involuntary scream? Yeah, that's what gave me away. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. Was the disc you saw this disc? Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove lying on the floor. Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps? I don't know, but McGill had picked it up pretty smartish. And then he set the cove with the knife in its belly up on the seat. What did he say to you at that time? He told me not to say a word about what I'd seen or heard to no one. But the disc and all, about the disc and all, I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. Then he started asking me a load of questions. Like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a diver too. But after a while, what had happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of rapping noise. All of a sudden I heard a scream from over me head, and the pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. There were two gentlemen occupying the seats on the roof deck, I believe. That's right. They must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with the knife in its gut. But when they screamed, the driver pulled up the horses and McGill got me out of sight. Out of sight? Back under the seat where I started off. Once the carriage came to an halt, the two coves from the roof ran off to fetch the slops. If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left McGilded and the driver and you still at the scene. Yeah, only the driver didn't know I was there because I was under the seat. I heard the cabin door open and a voice from outside. The driver, yes, he also testified in the trial, I believe. Yeah, he was nearly freezing to death. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves. What did McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened and stuff like that mainly. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop round about. That pawn shop obviously being Windybanks's on Baker Street. Just a moment, Counsel. Do you mean to tell me that the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well? Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was in the stand. Indeed, Lord Van Zeeks. Sure. Yeah, you ate it. There's nothing left of your snack. McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up all careful like before ending it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking that coat and what's in it is gotta be worth a few bob. Yes, Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than Mr. Windybank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember her quibbling with him over the price that afternoon on the pawnbrokery, at the pawnbrokery. The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in its face. He went running off at a lick. Then the bog trotter called to me and told me to come out from the drag's cabin. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard. Threatened you how, exactly? Told me I'd only be able to scarp her if I did exactly what he said. Oops. Which included giving false testimony in court 2 months ago? Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said, which was... He told me I'd have to hang on the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it. The ticket? Well, I never. Said that if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay the money to keep it in luck, to stop it being forfeited. He left me with some brass to pay for it. But really, why on earth would Mr. McGilded have done such a thing? Depositing his overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police, it makes no sense at all. There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGilded had the driver deposit on at Windybanks's was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that he let me go, so I left it before the coppers showed up. Well done, Gina. It can't have been easy to tell the truth like that. Ginny's really put her faith in you, Runa. Yes, and to thank her, she'll have to face a charge of perjury once this trial's over. So I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible. It's time to really go for it. Press her on every statement. I already did, though. I suppose I should. Oh, and another thing. What's that? Take a look at those two. Isn't it strange that they've been whispering to each other the entire time? Yes, that is strange. It seems like they're having a secret discussion about something. I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with that. I wonder if there's anything I can do about it. Huh. Didn't I press on everything though? Okay, whatever. Let's press again. What? Okay, press. I'm not gonna read it.
Excuse me.
Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Graydon? Inspector Mr. Graydon. Blimey, you're trying to give me a heart attack. Hi, Super Laptop, I'm sorry. How are you? Welcome. You have been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is the discussion about? Discussion with this fella? pull the other one, Sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with that shady gent like this? And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. But they've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating. Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, Counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus. It would appear on that night 2 months ago a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc, however, matters did not run smoothly. When the party involved began to quarrel over price, McGilded took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. The disc is clearly extremely valuable in some ways. Thank you! Thanks for the sub. Although I don't understand why as yet. And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, McGilded's code and its contents were due to be forfeited. I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the cove died right after his trial. I knew that. So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own? Well, why not, eh? They were only gonna be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime. Miss Lestrade, it would appear Mr. McGilded was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be? Eh? I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it would be worth a fair bit of press. He was probably gonna sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime. My lord. The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court's inspection, sir. The mysterious little box deposited by McGilded 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. To be continued. Okay, we're gonna finish this today. I don't want to break this up again in another part. No, we're gonna finish this. But I'm gonna take a short voice break and I need to open a window. Did I save? I have no idea. Let's save again. Yes, thank you. Okay, I saved already. Oh, come on, open. Okay, I can continue. So, this is the article in question, is it? The small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilded 2 months ago. And on the night of Mr. Windybanks' murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke into the shop. Quick, quick, let's open it and see what's inside. Okay. It's a music box, wow. Good gracious, this is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow. Although in truth I had an inkling that might be the case. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Then, is it too much to expect? I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. Ooh, are we gonna listen to the music or whatever is on that disc? So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGilded's disc, deposited at Windybanks' at much the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGilded's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus. Are we sure about that? But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand that the brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mr. McGilded? I believe the answer will become clear if we listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last. Wait, my lord. Good grief, what is the meaning of this, Inspector? The music box and the disc are, well, they're unrelated to the case. No need to spoil the somber atmosphere in the courtroom with some silly bit of music.
Objection.
This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happened. The prosecution has no objection. But no, that piece of evidence is police property. Clearly, Scotland Yard has some vested interests here. He eats too much fish and chips for my taste, but he is fine. But it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored, is it though? And you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. No further delays, please. Play the disc. Okay, if it doesn't interfere. Okay. What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music. No. It's just the same note playing over and over again in an irregular sequence. Is it Morse code? Mr. Graydon. This really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Well, obviously, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officers sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. So that's the person who had it in hand last night. Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers little in the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, Counsel? Come on. Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? Could this music emanating from the music box possibly be a new clue? Could be. Of course it could be. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord. Good lord, but how can it be? It's an abomination, Counsel. Mere noise. I fail to see how it can have any meaning whatsoever. Shouldn't you ask the jury? One of them should be reacting right about now. They are working in the telegraph section. It does sound strange, I agree, but there's one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Oh. Just what relevance do you propose this woefully chiming has on this case? It's the defense's belief that the sound emanating from this music box is not supposed to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be. Making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, you know.
Objection!
Oh, please, no. The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not, I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nipponese friend. Well, surely you have an idea in mind? Because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is yet. Bruno? I've just examined the music box very thoroughly. And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all. Really? Really? The way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway. Thank you, Iris. Alright, well, if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sounds it's producing have some significance that isn't musical. It's Morse code. Seriously, it's not that hard. I don't know any Morse code, but still. Ah, could it be? Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Bruno. I feel like recently, in the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes. Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going to have to press the defense for an answer. If your assertion is that the sound produced by this music box is not in fact music at all, then what the devil is it, Counsel? All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointing to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that my learned Nipponese friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm going to get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's going to join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds on this music box disc is... which contains an article about government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies.
Take that!
Today's paper, Counsel. The headline is Pawnbroker Perishes in Pickpurse Plunder, partly supportive of your cause. Ah, no, my lord. I was hoping you'd look a little further down the page. Further down. Ministry Mole? Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand. I have heard that international transmissions along supposedly secured lines are somehow being intercepted and leaked to various other countries. And presumably those transmissions are in the form of wired telegrams. Of course. Juror number 5, your input please. Stop. Oh, me, sir? Whatever is the matter? You told the court before that you worked at the same communication station as Mr. Graydon, did you not? Yes, that's correct. And the particular station where you work deals with government communication and newspaper reports? Oh, yes, we're not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important. Then tell me, is this not a familiar sound? Hmm? You don't mean to say, is it? That's right, madame. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it. I believe it's called Morse code. But I don't believe it. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer. Are you suggesting that the music box disc contains stolen government secrets in Morse code? Order! Please, everyone, order! But this is high treason, Counsel, deserving of capital punishment. Too much new vocabulary. What is this treason, and what is capital punishment? The sorts of words I'd half expected you to know. For our sovereign government's confidential information, hostile nations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, and on that night 2 months ago, that was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. But in the end, McGilded perished, and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in the pawnbrokery. My word! In which case, Whoever stole that information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry. Because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason punishable by death. So, the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it. And in order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind by Mr. McGilded would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't that right, Mr. Graydon? You think I've been stealing government secrets? Preposterous. Absolutely preposterous. So, in response to the defense's accusations, you claim complete innocence, do you? Well, of course I do. I've had to stand here in silence while the pretentious foreign lawyer has been prattling away.
Objection!
Then, by all means, counter the charges, sir. The prosecution demands the witness testifies in response to the accusations brought by the defense. Delighted, I'm sure. The witness is reminded that the crime under scrutiny in this trial is the murder of the pawnbroker Mr. Windybank. That being a most flagitious what? Offense. What? No, I wasn't done with that. For which the law of this land sanctions a capital punishment. But the heinous act of high treason is no less serious a crime. I urge you to bear that in mind as you testify, Mr. Graydon. So then, let us proceed. Why are you on the witness stand? You gotta let us have a rabbit and pork here, governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon? Who do you think you are? Name's Nesh Skalkin. Occupation is professional body. Name's Ringo Skalkin. But we ain't baddies enough to sell out our motherland. That's right. We're what they call the three Skalkin brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I've no relation to that man. Look, all we done is break into the gav the other night, like what he told us to do. If we'd known there was dodgy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. Mr. and Mr. Skalkin? One Mr. Do, Governor. What's up? Do I take it that you know and now admit to the crime? That on the night in question you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally? They told that from the beginning? And moreover, you did so as a party of 3 in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here. We did, Gav. We did. Quieten down, please. What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these 2 ruffians are referring to. Little rotter, getting us mixed up in all this monkey business. You never said nothing about no government secrets. It was supposed to be a straight-up job. And what's about the geezer whose shop it was, eh? Poor old bloke didn't have to die, did he? Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it has, I will admit it into the court record as evidence. The small music box has been entered into the court record. Thank you. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. So, is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted? How could I possibly know? What do you mean by that? Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff in the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop. Must say something. Stop. Let me guess. Juror number 5. We regular communication station officers aren't as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the ministry. And Mr. Graydon is the team leader. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idle. Stop. So you had the access to the equipment used for these confidential communications, Mr. Graydon? Well, what of it? The transmissions are always made behind closed doors, so they can't be heard. And in any case, all messages are sent enciphered. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Oh no, stop. Must say something. Stop. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with ministry technicians and the ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications, and he's received the top prize at the cipher cracking convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. Well, your idol would appreciate it if you'd keep your mouth shut. She should really pick her idols more carefully. I tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. They're not? To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds. Of course, of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. Ouch! He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson? Here in court? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct notes. Tones, you say? Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you construct letters. I see. For example, this is an A, and this is B. But when you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar. The rhythm of it is the same and everything. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparent random sequence of sounds. So, your assertion is fundamentally flawed. This is not Morse code. No. Really, you shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspersions in future. Stop. Nothing to say but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? Iris? I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Could there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use this music box somehow to play Morse code? There's still every possibility that this music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least.
Objection!
Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be in Morse code, 2 tones are required. Dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then, what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You had better present your idea at once, Counsel. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could have been used to decipher secret messages into Morse code? What's this? Oh, what is it, Runa? I've just noticed something about this music box. It looks like the bottom of it opens up as well. Ah, you're right. Well, come on then. What are you waiting for? Let's open it. Alright then, here goes. Look at that. There's another movement on the underside. So, does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side? Yes, I think so, and it looks like the movements are linked together. They're linked. So, if you had 2 discs, they would both play back at the same time. Well, then presented. Good gracious, what am I looking at here? Another movement on the underside of the music box? What? It appears, my lord, that the 2 movements are linked together. In other words, you can put 2 discs in this music box, and the sound of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens! As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of 2 tones, a short dot and long dashes. With the second disc in place, this music box would be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry. This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support this claim. Though, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the cord with the second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago, striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly. I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. Though it has holds, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Oh dear, looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Bruno. You will reiterate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, though I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination.
Hold it!
So, 2 months ago in that omnibus, McGilded killed the brickmaker and stole the disc. Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name. It seems he lived in an artisan quarter some years ago, but people there remember little about him. That doesn't make much sense though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed? There must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all of this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason in order to take it to the meeting with McGilded and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you I have far more class than that. An old brickmaker from an artisan quarter, and this well-to-be communications officer. If only I could find some evidence to link the two of them together. If you have nothing more to add on that note, let us return to the witness's testimony. Look, all we done is break into the gav the other night, like what he told us to do. Like Mr. Graydon told you to do, you mean? That's it, yeah? Who else, eh? Silly me thought he was just popping over for a natter after them years, but the rotter had a dodgy job for us. Ash? Let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say? Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? We're the sociable kind of baddies, you know? Sure. Let's say Mr. Graydon's an old China.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Mr. Skulkin? Eh? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. What? Ooh, me? When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh, I was just remembering the good old days, that's all. We used to have a right old love together way back when. Together with Mr. Graydon, you mean? Yeah, with Ash. I mean, you look at him now in his fancy whistle and flute, and it wouldn't Adam and Eve it. But when he was younger, he was from a poor part of town, just like us. is that so? But he was always a leery one. He had the brains, he had the savvy. Always coming up with smart ideas like what would never have gone through our heads. God blimey, God, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton Skulkin's milk run? That was a corker, eh? Save it until after the trial. Your reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit. Oi, the geezer asked us a question, didn't he? And we was answering. Yeah, we ain't done nothing wrong. Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we return our attention back to the testimony, please? I don't know. Could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Let's add it to the testimony. My lord. Yes, counsel. The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case. Very well, counsel. I will permit the brothers to supplement the testimony with that detail briefly, I hasten to add. Say no more, the Skulkins never skulkin. Milverton and Skulkin's milk run. Go them where the days.
Hold it!
I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business? Just a little scheme we had going back when we was youngsters. A bit of fun, really. Delivering fresh milk to the locals. That's what it was all about. That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask them to elaborate, but on what? So this business was just a bit of fun, you say? And it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved? Yeah, that's it. Milverton and Skulkin's milk run, was it? Yeah, that's it. And where did the Milverton part come from? Oh, right. I thought the clever clocks like you'd a bit all figured out. Enough of this. How much longer are we? Let me guess. You don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying? Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because well... It were the happiest of homes that one came from. Yeah, his old man was struggling for money so much his wife walked out on him. She took the name Graydon then, see? But Ash will always be Milverton to us. Milverton. So, that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not. This is all bunkum. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on the testimony of these two thieves, huh? You're a communications officer attached to the civil service. As such, your personal details will have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to subpoena those records, Mr. Graydon. Well, it would appear that Mr. and Mr. Skulkin's testimony has been reliable, for once. You were born Ashley Milverton then. Is that correct? Very well. So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. That information could change things and could turn out to be extremely important. Ashley Graydon's personal profile has been updated in the court record. All of a sudden, we seem to be up to our necks in a serious matter of national security. Although all this talk about interception of secret government messages is still just conjecture on this stage. It would explain a number of things though, wouldn't it? The negotiation Ginny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago, and the break-in at Windybanks's. But the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus with Mr. McGilded. No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker, who was so horribly murdered. If only there was some link between the two men somehow. No, but Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to us making headway with the cross-examination here could be those two brothers. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential information. He's a brickmaker, East End of London. Conviction was assured. 3 hours testimony, however, a surprise fourth witness resulted in acquittal due to insufficient evidence.
Objection!
Mr. Ashley Milverton, tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. No, I don't think that's the real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord, and as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilded. Yes, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. That's right, only Mason wasn't his surname at all, it was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say... Saints alive! Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? I don't... As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you joined the civil service, and it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records. The truth is, you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to McGilded in collaboration with your father. That's one way to make money, I guess. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded. By dint of this music box, you seem, counsel? You mean? Yes, stealing information being sent in government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music box discs to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilded went sour and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Windybanks's 2 days ago in an attempt to recover the 2 articles Mr. McGilded had placed and pawned there. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc. Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? Yeah, probably. Yeah. We never knew nothing about that. On the night that Mr. Windybank was killed. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item and one item alone, the music box. As rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera indeed. So, the question that naturally begs answering is this. Why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since, if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all of this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Okay, I said I didn't want to split it up, but I'm this close to falling asleep. It's getting interesting. I don't want to interrupt it, but if I'm not entirely there, awake enough, I don't really feel like reading this story. Let's finish this tomorrow, alright? Oops. I just don't want to lose the connection to this game and what's going on in the story. Yeah, I think that's for the best. Oof. My bed is calling. So, I had fun. I hope you did too. It's finally getting somewhere. Now the stakes are definitely higher. From simple murder to high treason. That is one major upgrade, I must say. We'll see how we'll fare tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you then. Bye bye!